headlines around the world. This is Caravan to Midnight, and we have two very, very good conversations lined up for you. One is with a gentleman, and his name is, get ready for it, Merle Temple. Wait till you hear his story. An amazing story of involvement in the drug wars and everything that followed. And it's the everything that followed that's more exciting, in my opinion, than the actual participation on the ground as a soldier in the drug war. And then we're going to speak her last name on this edition. DJ, the Jade Helm, and Jade 2 lady, the AI lady. Her last name will be revealed on this program, and should yield some really good things. That initiative, that artificial intelligence initiative, has not stopped. It has not even slowed down. In fact, it's exponentially worse than it was. What it means for us, I think, is more based in philosophy than science, although it's a melding of the two. Sort of like music. It's a combination of art and science, don't you find? Stand by for DJ. All right, everybody, we have not spoken with DJ, the AI lady, the Jade Helm lady, in some months now. But due to a reduction in security restrictions, we can tell you her name is DJ Welsh. And this is the first time that I've spoken her name on this program. And to the best of my knowledge, it's the first time the name's been spoken on anybody's program. Maybe not, but we're doing it now. And you know, a lot of times, you know, people prefer to hear surnames along with, you know, Christian names, other names, initials, and so forth, as just a matter of credibility, although she certainly has nothing to hide, and she'll be one of the first people to tell you, if not the first, to tell you that we're in a, you can't hide anyway, kind of a situation. But anyway, it's good to have her back with us. As you may know, she is the, can I say the hostess, or is that sexist? How about this? She hosts, or has hosted, her news site. Is that all politically tidy? Okay, good. Level 9 News. Use the number 9 when you go to the site, level9news.com. This site is hosted elsewhere, where there is a modicum of censorship-free environment, so she can present what she wants to present without, you know, having text erased right before her very eyes when she's posting stuff. And it's a great little site. And there's a frightening story on the homepage. Robots say no, and then it's when robots rebel. When robots rebel, who has the upper hand? Why Asimov's 3 laws can't protect us. So anyway, now you remember all that stuff, the wooden shoe and the strange symbology and the, you know, SOCOM, Special Operations Command, being released all over the country, or at least a good part of it. One of the initiatives was to see how Special Operations Command, well, actors, operatives, agents, were able to integrate into regular society while wearing street clothes. That's only something the government could think of as far as an exercise is concerned on its face, but I suspect there was more to it than that. Anyway, why don't we talk to her after I just give you a couple little more tidbits. Her background is in system and network engineering. She left her job in the gaming industry some years ago to pursue a challenge to make a difference in a world where right is wrong, up is down, truth is lies, what is bad is good, and what's good is bad. Level 9 News provides a protected platform to accelerate the awakening humanity is experiencing worldwide, and it is. She believes it's essential to keep the channels of truth and information open, to continue to raise the consciousness of humanity so we don't wake up one day and wonder how we became enslaved to a global totalitarian government. And most assuredly that initiative is underway. People are able to participate in forums as well as create new forums and forum topics of like-minded interests as well as a geographical location, and comment on topical reports posted on Level 9 news sites. Here's a forum. Here a forum is provided for groupthink to address potential solutions to the problems we as civilization are facing. And some of the site's topical categories include artificial biology, quantum and supercomputing, transhumanism, remote neural monitoring and brain mapping, good grief, emerging tech, data collection and assimilation, autonomous warfare tech. And then in other news and reports, you got geopolitics, geoengineering, and environmental, ranging from the fall of America with the false flags and the Hegelian dialectic, the global governance and the New World Order, to aerosol spraying, to climate disruption, weather warfare, all the way to Fukushima and all that stuff in the Gulf of Mexico, which is still weird, by the way. And people are getting things on their skin that cause problems that the description of which would of these problems would put you off your food, at least for the next 24 hours. There are also economic and financial subjects discussed there, human health, but overall it's all about the awakening. So enough of this chatter. I want to talk to her. DJ, welcome back. Good to see you. Good to actually see you. We've never seen you before.
Thank you for having me, John.
What's new? What's happened since we talked? I suspect quite a bit. You kind of got that look on your face like, well, it hasn't really gotten any better, so here it is.
Well, one of the things that has happened or is ongoing is a Pentagon document release, 53 pages. It's called Human System Roadmap Review, or the HSCOI, which is the Human System Community of Interest. And, you know, after dissecting this presentation and the program, which is all explained and laid out on the Level 9 website, it appears to be the J2 Artificial Intelligent Warfare Program version 2.0. And what I found, well, I found several things very disturbing in this report. And if you'd like, we can go over some of the highlights of this new warfare technology. And now, whereas, you know, you remember back in 2015, it was all about, you know, martial law and how to clamp down on the people and this and that. And, you know, some of us out there were saying, nah, there's a little more to it than that, than what's going on. I think there, you know, I was one of the people who thought that they were doing a system rollout for autonomous warfare decision-making program that was based on AI. And here in this Pentagon documents that we'll go over some of the highlights of, it's out in the open. They're absolutely stating this is what they're going to be doing. And one of the most disconcerting things I found in this paper throughout was how they're going to be using social media as well as all forms of communication, all forms. But predominantly, they're going to be focusing on social media as targeting telemetry for potential human threats.
Wow. Keep going.
All right. Now, let me see. The integrated simulation for experimentation and training that they talk about on civilian populations, now that, and that is a whole section that's addressed in this program. That was, I believe, the J2 AI software. Okay, the integrated simulation for experimentation and training on civilian populations. What did we have? We ended up with a lot of people exhibiting a lot of feelings of fear, anxiety, paranoia, you know, frustration. I mean, that was all that data was being collected in the form of ABI, or activity-based intelligence. This is, again, like I said, a version 2.0 of the battle plan to master the human domain. Now, going to be using autonomous learning systems on this particular warfare platform. And what autonomous learning systems do, what that means is that it's a delegation of decision making to machines that will require and render faster than human reaction times. Now, this is key because humans won't be able to react quick enough to override a machine action.
Human beings will not be able to react fast enough to counter a machine reaction.
Right, right.
Oh, that doesn't sound good at all.
No. You know, they go on to explain how, you know, the electronic warfare systems that they will be using now are hardened to operate in a future cyber warfare environment. And when they talk about that, what they're referring to is the GIG, the Global Information Grid, the IoT, the Internet of Things, all things. So, and, you know, it goes on to explain how, you know, that this warfare system is able to operate and communicate in otherwise communication deprived environments. And if you look at Google's Project Loon that they launched in some third world countries where there was no hardened infrastructure there, but yet they can all get on the internet with Project Loon. And another thing that struck me in this when I was going through it was the transfer of information and energy simultaneously, which is what BBN Technologies was working on with their OCOM technology. Now, everyone, you know, going through this and other documents, everyone is going to have a digital profile. That'll be, and it'll be categorized into desirable and undesirable groups. So.
Gee, I wonder what the criteria is to fit into one of those two categories.
Well, I think the predominant criteria is going to be threat level to who or what, threat level to the continuity of government. That's what it seems like to me. I mean, we're moving very rapidly, it appears to me, into a total C2 technocratic rule. And, you know, where technocracy was ruled by a few using technology, the danger here in what they are doing is they're taking the rule and the decision making and handing it over to AI systems. This is dangerous, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, well, it increases their plausible deniability. I didn't do it, the machine did it.
Absolutely, and that's even stated and spelled out in the Pentagon Papers, how, I'll have to wait on a break and see if I can find the exact quote, but it goes something like, collateral damage cannot be accountable to machines the same way it is to, you know, human warfighters and commanders. So, in other words, what they've done is they've drawn a wall between collateral damage affected by machines or laws, lethal autonomous weapons, and collateral damage affected by the decision of a human. One is prosecutable, one is not.
You know, I should probably save this question to later on in our conversation, but, you know, when has timing ever been something that I observed? Make that into some sort of a protocol. Although they say timing is everything, but okay, here it is. So, is it already rolled out? And if it's not, how close are they to rolling this out on a scale that would be undeniable and people could say something's really shifted in our little paradigm here?
Yeah, it's already being rolled out. They wouldn't have released this paper if it wasn't.
Gotcha. In other words, by the time you get the paper, it's already done.
Yes. And not only that, but I checked the budget and the funding for this program, which is all in the complete report on the website, and that this program is, the HSCOI is fully funded through 2021, 2025, and some phases of it beyond. fully funded.
Oh boy.
So, you're kind of wondering, all of us who are wondering where all that money is going. This is one of the places where it's going. So, I don't know. I mean, these learning machines are computational models of human cognitive, emotional, psychomotor, perceptual capabilities. And this, in effect, all combined, gives these systems total awareness, total situational awareness. Now, they go on in the paper about how they're able to spoof communications in a particular community of interest, as well as, get this, as manufacture mainstream broadcasts on the fly. So you think, you're watching something on the news and it's coming from a news desk somewhere in your city, and it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're talking about. Now, these laws or lethal autonomous weapons will be intuitive. In other words, they will have capabilities that will be able to mimic the human thought and action-reaction process. They can not only mimic it, but they can predict it.
So now where we're headed next is brain wave reading by a machine to determine your threat level.
Well, yes, but on that line of thought that you just mentioned, they're talking about using BMIs or brain-machine interfaces with the human flesh and blood soldiers on the battlefield to make them more like superhuman. They'll be able to work through stressors like pain, fatigue, hunger, that type of thing with these BMI interfaces. And I'm looking at a picture of a helmet here in the actual slide presentation from the Pentagon, and it's got all of these electronics going up around the side of it. So that would be one aspect of a BMI that they would be using on the human soldiers to have them interface with machines.
We only have our current perception. Hold your place. I'm just going to wander around a little bit here, get a little deeper understanding. Is it that obviously these things were developed to deal with in some way, whether starting it or responding to it, some sort of conflict? So I guess what I'm getting at is this too, why would they want to do this? Why is this necessary? Is it being done because, hey, we can do it, so let's go ahead and develop it and see what we can apply it to? Or has this tech been developed specifically to deal with an extant situation, not necessarily a future situation, but has it been developed to deal with a situation that exists now, or is it being developed in anticipation of some future scenarios?
That's a good question, and I think the answer to both of those questions is yes. As we see around the world, especially here, in the United States, there is increasing levels of civil unrest. Whether it be about the elections, the corruption in politics, the financial and banking system, everything not only seems to be falling apart, but the corruption now is bubbling to the surface, and people are, becoming aware of this, and they're angry, and they should be. So I think, these are what they call C2 systems, total command and control systems. And, in order to, let me put it this way, it's easier to technocratically rule a large number of people than to have, little puppets or rulers and dictators in place to try and, individually rule their own segregated communities of interest. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So,
oh boy. Well, unless you want to go forward, let's go backward a little bit.
Okay.
What was accomplished with Jade Helm?
Well, I think what was accomplished with Jade Helm is that the Jade 2 software that sits on the GIG was able to effectively do massive data collection. And, this data collection was coming from and being collected from every conceivable source. It was being compiled, categorized, and analyzed to identify all human threats. In that category, we're talking about everybody. We're not just talking about terrorists or insurgents. We're talking about everybody. But I think what they found with the Jade 2 or the Jade Helm 15 exercise was that the computing power that they needed to instantaneously analyze these things, they had the software, but they didn't have the hardware and quite in place yet. And then, from almost smack in the middle of the Jade Helm 15 exercise, Obama initiates his executive order on high performance computing, his brain initiative, and all of these other initiatives that haven't even been publicly discussed or, disclosed out in the open in the media or anything. And if you put all the dots together, it's like, aha, we've got to come up with a way fast to get the hardware platforms that we're going to need for this thing to run at optimum effectiveness.
If this thing is rolled, oh boy. So this thing is being rolled out because effectively now every individual, whether they are in uniform or not, is a potential combatant. Is that where we are with this?
That sure is what it reads like to me. I think that the combatants, or instead of calling them combatants, let's use the term they use, human threats, all human threats. And, reading this, scratching my head going, human threats, why aren't you identifying a segment, in here? And then it dawned on me, what is the biggest threat to the continuity of government? It's the people themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So that's, I believe, what they were saying, but not really coming out and saying straightforward.
So would it be safe to even assume that it's like they're going, okay, look, we have several systems, such as the banking system, the overall financial system, and the social, and the system of social order right now, and they're all cracking at their cases are cracking, and they're going to pop. So we need to roll this out and have it fully implemented to prevent what exactly? A big march with the torches and pitchforks, the classical march to the palace thing? Is that what they're worried about? Or I mean, what an enormous apparatus it's going to take to be able to control everybody. But that's only because, just like your eye, and I didn't really realize this, you look out using your eyes and you're looking at stuff. But the fact is that your eye only focuses, however briefly, on one thing at a time. It does not focus on everything in your field of view. It's only one thing at a time. And so I'm trying to avoid doing that in trying to look at their overall strategy. And I'm just wondering if it's possible to do that. I mean, there's the potential for disruption. I mean, everything from utilities, food supply, people shooting each other, law enforcement being shot at, stuff being stolen, natural disaster, a deliberately imposed disaster via some enemy attack, invasion of needy migrants, that something bad happens in Mexico, now they're mad and they're scared and they're rushing by the tens of millions or whatever north of the border, and you talk about no border control, and now they're mad because they think somehow, because of the propaganda that's been visited on them, that we caused this, so now they're really mad and scared and coming north. I mean, there must be a bunch of people sitting around just dreaming up the worst possible things that can be visited upon humanity and going, okay, now let's design a system to counter it all. And this is their idea, I guess.
Yes, but it was interesting, the example you gave about the eye, how the eye works. It focuses on one thing at a time, at a brief instant for identification.
Yeah.
What the artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence can do, it can look at multiple things instantaneously assess and identify through pattern recognition those things simultaneously. That's something that I guess, our brains or our eyes don't work that way. But the machine intelligence through pattern recognition does.
Mm-mm-mm. Okay, hey, we're riding with you, so just take us anywhere you want to go, okay?
Okay. These systems, as outlined in the program papers, will determine when to take action. So instead of, a commander who used to make those decisions before in the past, the systems will make that determination, and they will have full autonomy to do so. Now, human military personnel, which I also gleaned from this, will change classification from flesh and blood people to military inventory.
Military inventory.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking flesh and blood people and making them into military inventory. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so we're in effect, what this paper is laying out is that we're moving from a strategy-based to a technology-based military force. And in this scenario, reduced human intervention is classified as a force multiplier. First time this has ever happened.
Wait a minute. Say that again. That's got to sink in. What's classified now as a force multiplier?
Reduced human intervention.
Oh, gotcha.
Is now classified by the DoD as a force multiplier.
That just doesn't sound good at all. I don't even know that much about it, and on its surface, it sounds terrible.
Yeah, well, all of this just is anyway. Moving on.
Oh Lord! So basically, what they've done philosophically is they've just decided that human beings don't mean to screw up; they just do. So if we can take them out of the loop and eliminate the actual human factor, then that becomes our force multiplier due to reduced instances of human error. That sounds kind of beneficial when you state it that way, but
But it's something I don't think, I can't recall it in past, assessments of military force where, less is more, less people, less soldiers, less commanders is a force multiplier. I mean, have you ever heard of that before?
No. Well, actually, yes. I have heard it in some of these narrations I did for various aircraft companies, Lockheed and others. They described the capabilities of the aircraft, whatever it was, like the F-35 or the F-22 Raptor, either one, as being a force multiplier, just because of its increased performance and overall weapons delivery capabilities. That was their idea of force multiplication. So yeah, I get it.
Okay. And so, I don't know. This is to me, with the research I've done in this field, this is very disturbing. This is looking like a technocratic, a machine clampdown, a system, a software, a C2 system clampdown on humanity. I would have felt a lot more comfortable if going through this document, as well as others, that the threats were outlined and spelled out, like terrorists, insurgent, or what are they called? Actors, state actors, non-state actors. But instead, they just grouped everything into this category called human threat.
Oh boy. Okay. Now then, lethally autonomous weapon systems. I take it that they are weapon systems that they're not exclusively drones. They're at least the airborne type. Are we talking about stuff on the ground also?
Yes. We're also talking about the use of hive-based intelligence in a swarm deployment scenario.
Wouldn't it be nice philosophically if all this attention was turned toward improving the condition of human life rather than trying to control it or otherwise eliminate it?
It would. I mean, and I've said this, I can't tell you how many times, people have told me that I'm a technophobe. I'm not a technophobe. I think technology is wonderful. However, I think the way that the technology is being deployed and the problems it's being charged with solving are not the best use of this technology, never mind the hands of the people who are controlling it. So, this could not end well.
Well, let me ask you this. As you analyze this, do you see any possibility of it ending well? Is it possible that it might end well?
Well, if you look at, who is enhancing, who is deploying, who is embellishing on this type of technologies, you have organizations like DARPA, IARP, you have the BBN technologies, you have all of the usual players involved in this. Now, when DARPA gets their hands, IARPA as well, on new technologies, what is their main thrust? How to weaponize it. That's their whole job. How do we turn this technology into a weapon?
Always. Always like this.
So, and this and other official U.S., DOD, and NATO documents that I reviewed before putting together this whole report confirm the fact that autonomous weapons have been and will continue to be developed that will kill targets, including civilians, based on, in this particular example of the HSCOI, will target and eliminate threats, including civilians, based on tweets, texts, blogs, photos, audio files, video, websites, podcast data, that type of thing. Now, this latest iteration of these autonomous systems will now, and this scares me, will now use social media analytics to make kill decisions with little to no human interaction. And the reason why this scares me is because, I think Facebook is just an abomination. But anyway, how people will go out there and say things on the net they would never say to somebody, to their face or, in a conversation, and they put all this nonsense out there. They're going to be identified and categorized based on, the history of those communication strings on their account. Something to think about, So, swarm-based technology, going back to the military side again, the swarm-based technology operating on hive mind platforms will be a key focus in this new electronic warfare theater. So where you have the main brain or the hive mind making decisions that then simultaneously go out to whether they're, air, land, sea-based drones, all with the same mission and goal. This also goes to say that if you have a glitch or a defect in a program that's operating on that hive mind, you could be looking at major problems, major complications, major collateral damage. So you asked me if I thought that this is something that, they're rolling out now, or is it something that they're preparing for some type of future deployment. In my opinion, based on everything I read, is that these programs, portions of them are already fully funded. The majority of the programs will be fully funded and operational within 15 years. This is what they say, okay? I believe, however, on the stage of development that they're in many of the phases of the HSCOI, they're already operational and they'll be fully autonomous within 5 years or less.
Okay.
So, you're looking at, a potential short-term future where you have these systems that will on their own autonomously determine acceptable levels of collateral damage based on mission analysis, which may or may not be outside of what's known of the J2 system as commander's intent. And I think we kind of dissected that quite a bit in earlier shows that we did. And as these systems would determine the use of lethal force without any human intervention. You know, so it's now clear the NSA push for mass data collection of everything on everyone was not to keep us safe, but it was to keep us enslaved to a global C2 system whose objective was and is and will be to master the human domain.
Who is doing this, and who is signing off on it that it is okay? Is this the above top secret crowd that that dictates? I mean, the ones that burn up the money in the black budget that nobody knows what they're doing. And
I mean, I believe so. I believe you're absolutely right with that. But as far as, you know, I can read you the list from the steering committee, the working group, the sub areas. You know, these are all professors, PhD, and current and ex-military personnel, you know, that put this wonderful document out there for everybody to, I guess, ignore. So.
well, the long and the short of it is there's no stopping it. There's no going back. Or is there?
Well, you know, these things are, you know, it's not unstoppable. It is to our detriment that it has been able to roll forward this far without people standing up and saying, hey, wait a minute. You know, what are you doing? You're releasing laws and laws on civilian populations. I mean, who told you you could, you know what I'm saying? Nobody ever questions any of this stuff. It's, oh, it's a done deal, you know, just forget about it, move along, nothing to see here, you know. And now here we find ourselves, you know, and it's, anyway.
Wow.
But it's clear from these papers too, John, that communication infrastructure for civilians, you know, can be destroyed, taken out, without affecting the ability of these autonomous systems to operate in a communications deprived environment through the use of temporary atmospheric, land, or sea-based, like we mentioned before, communications set up on dedicated frequency bandwidths. You know, so decentralized control of autonomous weapons operating on multiple platforms will be coordinated by these AGI-driven systems, including the communications aspect of how these systems talk and communicate between each other. You know, goal-directed autonomy requires AIs to reprogram themselves, which would include target re-identification and assessment at will.